confident that this administration is going to be able to do much more legislatively?
Well, look, unfortunately, legislatively, this has been arguably the least productive Congress ever. And the irony is that the majorities that the Republicans have is about the same as the majorities we had last term when we had one of the most productive Congresses ever. Infrastructure bills, biggest climate bill ever, the PACT Act to help our veterans. And it's really sort of the Republican Party is at war with itself, and they're not going to resolve that soon. Now, to the Biden point, I mean, he wants to play a leading role in figuring out how to address the crisis in Gaza. That doesn't take legislation. That takes American leadership and an American leader who is committed to, standing up for the post-World War II order, which Biden has dedicated his life to. Obviously, there's a stark contrast with someone else who, Russia just endorsed J.D. Vance. And so I'm just nothing but impressed with the way that Joe Biden has comported himself from this, dedicated himself to those causes that can be done by the executive branch, and then, passed the torch on to Kamala Harris, which I think we're all very excited about.
I hate to ask the dumb questions, Congressman, but sometimes that's what I'm here for. You're talking to us for our viewers on Bloomberg TV from an empty rotunda. Everyone's leaving. Why is this happening? Where's everyone going?
Well, so the congressional calendar, which is set by the majority, had us that we were supposed to be in Washington this week and next week. This week on the floor, we had an appropriations bill, and I was talking with some of my colleagues who were voting on amendments, and then all of a sudden, we said, why are there no more votes coming up? And a couple of my colleagues came on and they said, are we going home? And then we looked down and Mike Johnson's arguing and they didn't have the votes. And, I found myself talking with Catherine Clark, our whip, and saying, as the whip, do you count votes before you bring a bill to the floor or after you decide not to pass it on the floor, that they didn't have the votes? And it's, there's a Schadenfreude there, I suppose, but this is not how government's supposed to work. Like we have to fund the government by September 30th, and we go into Congress, they don't have the votes on the floor, and then they say, well, just go home, take an extra week off because we don't have work. Now, we don't take off, we'll go home and, meet with our constituents. But unfortunately, they've sent us packing.
Well, Congressman, something did pass on the floor of the House today. It was a resolution condemning Vice President Harris for her role as the border czar in the Biden administration. 6 of your Democratic colleagues voted for that, considering President Biden last night essentially said that he stepped down in the name of party unity. What do you tell those colleagues tonight?
As you'd said in your prior piece, these are some members who are in some very vulnerable districts who are thinking a lot about their own reelection. And I think if you ask any of them individually, what they will all tell you is that that bill is never going to be taken up by the Senate. It is completely non-binding. And their judgment, I think, I don't want to tell you how they're thinking, but I think their judgment was that this helps me hold my seat and it doesn't really matter. I think the sadder one that for folks like me is that that's not what we should have been voting on this week. That wasn't something that any of the Republicans were talking about until they realized that they had a formidable candidate for president and they couldn't pass a funding bill. So maybe we'll just do something that says Kamala Harris, mean not happy. Okay, fine, but it's a substanceless bill, and we'll move on now to get to the real work.
Well, in a few weeks, Congressman, we're all going to be converging on your hometown of Chicago for the Democratic National Convention. I don't know if Kamala Harris is going to be made the nominee officially in Chicago or if it will be done virtually ahead of time. Maybe you have some insights into that, but I wonder if this change at the top of the ticket makes you less concerned about security. The whole story so far about Chicago is 1968, the protests, where do we draw the perimeter? Does that change now that it's Kamala Harris?
I couldn't tell you what how the Secret Service and everybody else is thinking about this, other than that in the briefings that I've had with them, they are going to make absolutely sure that we have a safe convention, as they did in Milwaukee and at the NATO summit, these high-profile events that go through. I think what's really sort of much more exciting, we were talking to folks today that if you're 35 or younger, you didn't vote in 2008, which means that every election you voted in has been this tremendous fear about what the future of our country is. The voting after January 6th, the voting in COVID, the voting when, all the horrible things that Trump was saying about Hillary Clinton. And you just have this amazing energy now, especially among young people, who are saying, this is someone who I'm really excited about. This is someone who smiles, who dances, who looks like me. This is the opportunity for us to say on our 250th anniversary in 2046 that for the first time in our history, we have a woman in the White House and a woman of color. And isn't that like a positive thing? And I just think like there's just such an enthusiasm, yes, among Democrats, but I think in America of like someone who stands for what we hope to be. Right? What we like to tell ourselves that we are, and that's pretty great.
Well, sir, you're describing the woman who is understood to be at the top of the ticket. Someone has to join her on it. Would you advocate for your governor to be her vice presidential pick?
I'm going to leave that decision up to who the Harris team thinks is the best pick to round that out. All of the people that have been suggested are great people. I know and have worked with some of them, not all of them, but I'll defer to them on that. I'm not going to put my thumb on that scale.